Me Too. You might have seen on social media a status going around in which people are saying Me Too, and it's designed to show how unseen and unacknowledged the problem of sexual violence and sexual abuse is. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents by saying Me Too. Sexual assault is a lot more prevalent than you would initially think. In response to this status going around, I started to look into the statistics to see, what the actual statistics are. And what I found was that somewhere between 10 to 20% of women and 5 to 10% of men will report being sexually assaulted in their lifetimes. Now, it's hard to know or trust the validity of those stats for a couple of reasons. The first one is that there's an underreporting bias. If you consider the fact that this status exists and the nature of sexual assault, people are not going to feel comfortable coming out and sharing what happened to them. It's embarrassing, it's confronting, and it's very personal, obviously. So whenever there's something like this, same thing with mental health, there's a significant underreporting bias. So you're not really sure if it's that amount or a bit more. And the second issue is with these statistics is it really depends on how you define sexual abuse or sexual assault. If you talk about with penetration, the numbers or the statistics go down. But if you talk about molestation or groping or something like that, then the numbers go up. So the statistics are sort of hard to measure, and it really depends on how you define it. But what I've known from personal experience is that a lot of people have been sexually assaulted. In my experience, it's significantly more females, but males as well. And this is why I think people are starting to come out and start sharing, because it's a lot bigger problem than what people think. So I sort of wanted to contribute to my thoughts to this process. In relation to the Me Too status that's going around, there've been a couple of major complaints that people have about it, and I want to address those now. So the first one is that in most of the iterations that I've seen, it suggests sexual violence or sexual assaults against women. But from personal experience, both to myself and to other people, it's a human problem. It's a people problem. It's not just against women. It's against boys, and anyone can be a victim of this issue. So if it's just for women, I think there's a bit of an issue there. So for me, that's why I'm sharing Me Too now, because I want to suggest that it's not just an issue that women have to face, and for men seeing it that have gone through it themselves, there are others that have gone through it. The second issue is that it doesn't provide any resources or support directly, in the sense that if you see it, it does help to reduce the stigma and to show people that other people have gone through it. But if you're in that situation, it doesn't give you guidance on how to seek help. It just sort of says, hey, I've suffered too, which in its own right is obviously it sort of provides a sort of a sorority or a brotherhood, in the sense that, we've gone through this together. But it would be great if it could also provide some advice on what people that have gone through a sexual assault situation should do to help themselves, or to help someone else that they know that have gone through it. So for me personally, I found that seeing a therapist was a massive help for me, as well as writing. But if you're in this situation, speak out. Find a therapist that you can talk to, an expert. If you're in high school, there's usually like a support person in the school. If you've got a trusted relative that you can go to, speak out, start seeking help, and look for that support. The final issue that I've seen people talk about is that for people that have gone through a sexual violence or sexual assault, every time the Me Too thing pops up, it might be triggering to them, in the sense that it reminds them of their own sexual assault, and that can be quite confronting. Now, I'm in two minds about this. I don't want to trigger anyone, but there's always going to be things in the world that triggers people. And, if you're online, things will pop up randomly, and that just sucks. But for me, it's a trade-off. Considering the fact that this status has gotten such, virality, suggests that it's really appealing to people, in the sense that it needs to be said. And yeah, it will cause some pain and some triggers to some people, but I can't but help think of the vast majority of people that are seeing these statuses and going, oh, it's not just me. Now, they might not respond and post that status for their own reason, because, perhaps the person that did it to them is online on their Facebook. Maybe it's their parents, maybe, who knows? maybe they don't feel comfortable, and that's fair enough, but there's a bunch of people that are seeing these statuses that it will be comforting and helpful to know that they're not alone. Because that, from my own experience, that feeling of aloneness, or, did this only happen to me? Am I a freak? I'm confused by all these thoughts that are going through my head, all of those sort of things. Seeing that there's other people out there that are comfortable sharing really does help. If you are being triggered by these statuses, maybe take some time off social media, maybe consider if social media is the thing for you. And I know that sucks, and there's no real correct answer to this, but in my mind, it's more important to get the word out there than it is to not talk about it, because by not talking about it, people won't get help that need it. It's a shitty trade-off, but I think it has to be made. So with the concept of triggering in mind, I want to give you a trigger warning for the rest of this video. I'm going to read you a passage from my book in which I go in depth about some of the trauma that happened to me. And the reason I want to do this is because through writing, I was able to sort of come to terms with and start to let go of some of the trauma that came up in my mind. And it was very therapeutic. And the writing combined with the seeing a therapist was some of the more therapeutic things. And I wanted to also share to let you know of what some of the realities of, memory recall and the sort of the mental state that being a victim of sexual assault sort of puts you in. So with that in mind, feel free to switch the video off now if you feel like it'll trigger you, but if not, I'm going to read you a little bit of a passage here. So, since starting this book, new memories have begun to surface. Maybe the process of writing and revealing my past has started to unlock the deeper, more repressed aspects of my childhood. Writing is almost like a catalyst that began the process of connecting the fragmented puzzle that is my memory. Recently, I've started to have recollections that I just can't shake. I have no way of verifying the truth of them, because there's no one who I can ask. My father is gone, and the details of all the people that he was associated with at the time are long outdated or forgotten. All that I have are the fragments of memory combined with the reality of life it was like at Dad's house. One memory fragment begins with me lying on a bed in a white room. I don't know where I am or even how old I am, but I look young, perhaps primary school aged. The blankets are cast aside to the floor, and the room is a mess. Clothes and random junk are piled everywhere, but the bed is surprisingly clean. White sheets cover the thin, springy mattress. I'm nude, face down and hugging a pillow. Behind me is a large man with his hands outstretched. He's holding me down. One hand is at the base of my neck, and the other is on the small of my back. They are covered in long black hair and feel rough, like workers' hands, calloused and unclean. He's telling me to be quiet and to stay still. I bury my head in the pillow and hold it tighter. It smells as if it had been left in a linen cupboard for way too long. I grit my teeth and begin to cry. I squeeze harder. The pressure on my neck increases, and he releases his other hand. Slowly and deliberately, he moves it lower, and it begins to hurt. Then there's just blackness. All I can remember of it is a glimpse, seen from an external perspective. It's like I'm the aggressor assaulting my younger self. I see it through his eyes. I don't know for certain what happened to me that day, and I don't think I ever will. Trying to recall such trauma is fraught with issues, as memory recall is at best times faulty. However, the fact that I have significant holes in my memory at least tells me about the severity of the situation that I faced growing up. Regrettably, in that house and with those people, anything could have happened. As I said in that passage, it's hard for me to recall with clarity what happened because I was young and because it was obviously a traumatic experience. But like I said, if you're in this situation yourself, there are other people out there who've gone through similar situations, and it sucks and it shouldn't have happened to you and it's not your fault. But there is help out there. Part of it is that you need to take the steps yourself to seek it. So like I said, for me, I found writing it down really helped. I find talking about it helped, and I find that seeing a professional psychologist really helped. But beyond that, what I want to do now is suggest to you that you're not alone and that there's people out there that will be supportive of you. So, as the status is going, me too.